So I don't know if you've noticed, but one of the biggest things missing in the work environment today are people skills. Some people call them soft skills or interpersonal skills. But have you noticed when you're out shopping or just talking to like customer service on the phone, they've completely dropped off? And that's a bad thing. It's a very important skill to have, and in my honest opinion, it matters even more today than it did 10 years ago. Why, you might ask? Because people still value that human touch that you can't really get from automation. It's so important to have these skills, especially with the rise of AI, artificial intelligence. And I know that's a conversation for another time, but your people skills are going to play such a big part in your success in the work field. If any of you guys watched the TV show Suits, and it was one of my favorite shows, you'll probably notice this all over Instagram recently, then you're familiar with Donna. The character Donna was a master when it came to dealing with people. She always knew exactly what to say, how to engage, and is overall the kind of person you want handling your business affairs. Which is what she did for majority of the show. She was Harvey Specter's secretary, but so much more. And later in the show, Donna creates the Donna. It was an AI-based version of herself that could give advice and had all the same knowledge that she had. So that was like 3 to 5 years ago on TV, but in reality, today, it's here. I told you guys I listened to this woman named Heather Monahan, total motivational speaker, super awesome, love her content, but she has created a digital clone of herself. Essentially, she's created the Heather. Like, just listen to this. This is crazy.
Success is deeply personal and unique to each individual. For some, it's about achieving career milestones and financial stability, while for others, it's about finding happiness and fulfillment in their personal lives. Ultimately, success is about aligning your actions and achievements with your core values and passions, creating a life that feels meaningful and true to you. What aspect of success are you most interested in understanding or achieving?
And that's not even Heather. That is a digital version of her, utilizing a software called Delphi. And their whole thing is about cloning yourself so that people have instant access to you and how you would respond in any given situation. You can hear her breathing, you can hear her take pauses when she speaks. It's super crazy. From a tech standpoint, I think that's pretty cool, but people still love that human touch that only a real person can give. But you can't deliver it if you don't have it. And some companies today are still killing it when it comes to this. I don't know if where you live has a QT or a quicktrip, but if you recall when those stores first opened and you walk in, they're crazy with their customer service. They're like, "Hi, welcome to QT. How are you doing today? Do you need any help?" Where are you going to find that in America at a gas station? Because I've never seen that before. But every time you go into one of those stores, they treat it like it's a grand opening. It's pretty incredible. Another great one that's really popped up here in Tucson is dutchbros coffee. I think those kids are drinking the coffee before they start their shift because they are so hyped about what they're doing. I mean, they're outside, they've got their little iPads, and they're walking up to you, they're taking your order. But they are so customer oriented, it's crazy. They're like, "Hi, how are you doing today? What are you up to? What are you going to do today?" They do a really great job of building rapport with the customer. And at first you're a little like, okay, calm down. You need to chill a little bit. But pair that experience with the brand and great coffee, and people are going to continue to come back. Last year I went for my birthday, and they noticed I had a Superman emblem on my steering wheel cover. And what they did was they drew a Superman symbol on the cup, and then they sung me happy birthday at the checkout window. And there's like a ton of cars behind me. If you've been to Dutch Bros, you know those lines are long. But they didn't even care. Like, the 3 associates that were inside just started singing to me. And that was the first time I ever even went to that location. That's how good they are at customer service. And people skills like this, no matter how good they are, have not been replicated by machines in a real world setting. So now's your time to master them. There's a few simple soft skills, or interpersonal skills if you will. I'm going to break down a few simple skills that I believe everyone should have. Number 1, communication. Knowing how to provide great customer service is monumental. A simple, "Hi, how are you doing today? How can I help you? Welcome in," really goes a long way. These qualities are things that will not only make you stand out to your employers, but will give your customers a memorable experience and keep them coming back. 90% of the gas stations I walk into, The attendant doesn't greet me. They're usually hanging out behind the counter, playing on their phone. And when you get to the checkout, it's usually a, hi, that would be $10.75. They're just so bland and straight to business. It honestly feels like they could care less about anything other than getting their shift over. But put yourself in the customer's shoes. What sounds better? A positive outgoing projection or a dull is that all approach? I really suggest practicing being courteous when you're at work, because one thing people don't realize is AI needs to be trained by humans. If jobs are to get replaced by AI, there's a good chance that the companies are going to keep the employees with the strongest people skills to do that training. Next up is going to be body language. And actually, there's two key points to this: how you're projecting and how they're projecting. Honestly, you could be saying all the right words, but have zero emotion attached to it. A smile, a laugh, a pitch in your voice all go a long way. If you're not saying the words with any emotion, people will feel that. And I get it, maybe you're more of a stoic and you have a more serious personality. That's cool. Do you, but be authentic. There's a difference between being serious and then just not wanting to be bothered. And you know, it's interesting. If you watch, when people are dealing with other adults, they can give off that type of demeanor. But the minute a little kid walks up to you and they're like, I can't find my mom or dad, I don't know if it's his parental skills kicking in, but the mood totally changes. They're nurturing, they're caring, there's voice inflection. They're trying to do all they can to help that child. At least that's been my experience. The other factor is their body language. Knowing how to read the room and respond accordingly can flip a bad situation into a positive one. I remember when I was a security guard many years ago, I was what's considered mobile, which meant I was walking the floor and observing for a suspicious activity. And there was this one guy, and he was acting super sus. But I would approach him every few minutes with, are you finding everything okay? Yeah, those Skull Candy headphones are a great choice. Man, those Nikes are sick. I'd rock them. And this dude had an arm full of stuff, didn't grab a cart, which is usually an indicator that they're about to run out the store. But you know what? He didn't. He started to approach the exit, and I was standing at my post by the door. And instead of running out, he walked up to me with all the stuff, and he was like, hey, you know what, man? I was gonna steal all this stuff from you guys, but you're a good dude. My bad. Here you go. And he left. And I was kind of shocked at the time. I was like, that's a first. But what it showed me was having courteous customer service instead of being aggressive can change a situation. Now, I know they're called soft skills, but don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean you need to be soft. A lot has changed since the pandemic, but there's a difference between aggravating a situation by being aggressive versus being assertive. Always safety first. Screw the merchandise, but protect yourself and your team. This leads me to another instance when I was a security guard. My job was supposed to be deterring theft. And I recall one of my directors came, he saw an elderly lady approaching the building. And he was like, Jonathan, if you see someone like that approaching the door, make sure you grab it. And I was like, okay, but our policy says. And he was like, Jonathan, I know what our policy says, and thank you for following it, but actions do what? And so I responded, speak louder than words. And he was like, right. He had me walk him to his car, which is another thing that was against the policy. And he told me that a great leader knows when to choose their battles and encouraged me to take into consideration what our rules say and what was morally right. And I think that's why he had me walk him to his car. I was a part-time security guard at the time, but his message spoke volumes to me. Learn to read the room and the people. And then another skill per se is your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And I'm really talking about the simplest things too. If your shift starts at 8 a.m., then why are you clocking in at 8:05 a.m.? Now, I do think there's some exceptions to this, however. I interviewed for a company, and they were straight up like, you're gonna have 12-hour shifts, but we expect you to come 1 hour early to set up, and typically managers stay 1 hour after their shift to wrap up for the day. And yeah, I didn't take that job. They were paying a lot, but the drive was 45 minutes from my house and 45 minutes back to my house. So essentially, with the drive time, I would have been working 16-hour days, and I would have been salaried, so it could have potentially turned into even more. But back to what I was saying. As the old saying goes, your word is your bond. If you can be on time for your shift, do it. You know what your schedule is for the week, and you don't have any serious emergencies, be on time. Life happens, but doing your best to stay on top of your responsibilities and not burden your team goes a long way. And lastly, and this might even be number one, but I'm not going into any particular order, is active listening. I actually mentioned this in my last video, but active listening and paying attention to what people say will go a long way when it comes to your people skills. This has kind of become my motto in life that I took from when I was a security guard. Listen, review, and act. You heard them, you reviewed it, you took the appropriate action. And if you need to, write it down. At one of the jobs I worked at, and I don't know if it was a joke, but I really don't think it was, one of the managers mentioned, hey, everything here is recorded, so you better be on top of your game. And I was in this big Zoom meeting room with like 20 other people. But what I really took from that is to have very detailed listening and note taking. If there's important actions you have to take at work, or you're dealing with a client, well, if you capture everything by writing it down or taking extensive notes, you're not going to miss anything. So there's a lot more out there, but those are my main tips for when it does come to soft skills. Get so good at them that when your company does start incorporating artificial intelligence, AI, you're already ahead of the game. In my last video, I talk about the power of being present and in the moment. You can check that one out here. And if you found value in this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.